Hi, my name is Susan Palmer and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be interviewing a very amazing artist, Ann Lindquist. She's not only a beautiful quilter, but she's also a flute player. So we're going to be talking to her about both of her passions. Let's welcome Ann. Ann?
Hi, good to talk with you.
Good to have you here too. Let's see, so let's talk about how did quilting become interesting to you, or how did you get into the quilt world?
Oh, I was thinking about that. My mom was in a quilt group back in the 70s, and her group, they all made blocks and put them together, and a lot of them were of Victorian homes. And then they would put it together, beautifully done, and hang it in a shop in downtown Port Townsend for about a year. And they would sell raffle tickets. And with that money, they were able to buy trees and plant the trees in Port Townsend on all the streets that didn't have them, and pay for the watering, because that was the issue is, you have to get the truck and the water and everything until, for a couple years until they get stabilized. So that was, I loved the camaraderie and what a group of women could do when they put their minds to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of helped out a little bit here and there, but I didn't come back to it until probably the 2000s. I lived in Wenatchee for a while, and I got involved in a guild. And so that's where I started going to more classes, learning more. And then I enjoyed it so much because quilters tend to be, really nice, creative people.
Mm-hmm.
When I moved back over on this side, I joined a guild again. And guilds are great because you learn more all the time. And I love playing with color.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I think the thing that drew me the most was the color. And I love, putting stuff on the design wall and deciding, okay, now are they playing well together or not? Yeah.
Very nice. And I think we met each other in a guild, right?
Yes, we did.
Lighthouse Quilters.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great group.
Well, thanks. The Mukilteo Garden and Quilt Tours that we do every other year, and it's a great fundraiser for our guild and the garden club, and putting the beauty of quilts and gardens together. I mean, kind of a no-brainer, really.
Right, exactly. And color everywhere. It's coming up this next July, hopefully. We'll look forward to that. The beautiful quilt you have behind you.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
That one took me a while on the design wall. It was up there for a while because I decided on the background of the greens, I kind of did a medium light green, and then I went pale green out. And I love doing scrappy quilts because I have my stash is kind of big, and I have it divided into color boxes. What is it? The Monkey Wrench, or it's got several different names, Snails Trail. Yeah, it took a while to do that. And then I have to say, Barb Dow did quilt it for me.
She's an amazing quilter. She really is.
Give credit where credit's due.
Absolutely. So you sent me some pictures. This one first.
The Australian fabric. I was going through and it just popped up, and I didn't want to cut it. So I just started grabbing scraps, and that's what happened. I kind of like that flow of being inspired by a piece of fabric and then just letting it happen.
And the colors go so well together, you would think that they were all meant to.
It was a creative thing because I wasn't going out at all at that time.
So the center was your panel, basically.
Yeah, and it just spoke to me. Kind of thought about the outback and hunting.
Are any of the other fabrics in there, are they part of the same group, or were they just totally, completely different? Wow, that is beautiful.
Thank you. And because I've been collecting fabrics for so many years, I have all these dye lots that I can go back and still find things that work because of that. But you need to have a big palette for that. And I'm fortunate I can find things in my own stash. I do have to go to quilt shops though when I really get stuck. I take my color. Can I share my color tool?
Sure.
It's the Joan Wolfram, so I get the color figured out, and then I'd go, okay, I can be in this little grouping when I go in the quilt store and find what I need. And that's why I love it when I go into stores that have they're color coded. I mean, they have all the colors together and the flannels are separated, and so it's very helpful, and it fits in my purse. And
Nice.
Joan Wolfram did this. I bought this at the Shack. It's the art place in Everett. And you go.
Seam ripper.
And I like this because it's a really thin one, and I do a lot of reverse stitching at times,
Don't we all?
And it feels good in my hand. And I like supporting another artist making these.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
This is, of course, Omnigrid.
Yes.
This little guy I have so close to me to double check the size of squares before I sew them, or check my seam, the quarter, is it really 1/4 inch? Where am I today? I love these scissors. There's 2 little snippers that are curved. Curved up.
Yeah.
And then curved up. Not that I've gouged my fabric a lot, but it because they're curved up, I'm less likely to make a hole. Ricky Timms recommended this tool. Yeah. So those are the things that I keep really close to me. But of course, depending on my projects, I might have different tools that I need. But those I use a lot.
Do you have a favorite store that you go to get inspired?
Quilting Mayhem. I mean, it's a drive, but I like going there, and Aunt Mary's, and even up in Arlington, and I mean, wherever I go, I always check out the quilt shop because everybody buys different fabric.
Do you pet your fabric?
I do. I love finding a good hand in the fabric. Some stuff you just feel it and you go, oh, this is really good quality.
Yeah.
You just can feel it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's a little harder for me for that reason to buy online. Because I have done it and it's like, oh, this isn't what I was hoping. Yeah.
It's nice to have the online shops when you're looking for something specific, but it's also most important, I think, to have the brick and mortars so that we can go and get inspired from the shop owners, I think.
Yes.
Let's go on to another beautiful quilt. So these fabrics kind of look familiar. Are they few years old?
Yeah, I was so surprised to find fairy fabric in my stash. I couldn't remember buying it, and so I don't know how I got it. Maybe it was a gift, but it was just fat quarters, and I cut it and just spaced them on the design wall, and then I went to my stash, and I luckily had enough that were close enough. And I also have the way I organize my scraps is I cut them into squares of different sizes, and I have drawers, and then so I just went into my drawers, and they're kind of organized by color, sort of. So I just go through and find the colors that work of the different sized squares that I had and strips. And again, I worked on a design wall because I don't know how else you'd do it.
Right.
And I sort of spaced the fairy fabric, and then I just started kind of filling in with all the other stuff, and it was a fun puzzle. I like puzzles like that.
I like your little film strips in there. Those are really.
I know, and I was so amazed that a lot of it just went together perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to do a lot. It just was one of those flowing projects, and I was just so pleased.
Sounds like the way that you start these quilts is you find fun fabric that you focus on, and then you build around that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's how how I'm working now. And sometimes it's just a small piece of fabric,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just go, oh, what can I do with this? It's kind of what's helping me during this pandemic, give me some structure, and I get to create something, and maybe it can keep someone warm someday.
All right, let's see if I can find the next one. This one's light and bright and exciting, and I can see it beautiful. A child just loving this one.
Thanks. I call it recess because I let my inner child pick the colors out of my stash. And once again, I just got scraps that went together, and that one I might add a little more border. I'm not sure yet. I haven't cut it yet, but it was really fun to do, and I think I needed those bright colors.
Right, yeah, yeah. So which fabric was your first one that you started with?
The ones with the patterns, the bright colored patterned ones. I
Okay.
had done some projects, and I think I came across the remnants of that project, and I went, oh, this is just bright and happy, what I need right now. So I pulled the primary, fun stuff out, and then once again, I put it on my design wall and just started filling in stuff that I had. And another good puzzle.
Beautiful, beautiful, really fun. Okay, this one is I think you call it impromptu, maybe?
Yes.
Yes.
And somebody had given me, once again, the fabric. It was just a fat quarter. A friend gave it to me, and I looked at it, and it's like, well, what do you do with this? Because the print's too big. You can't really cut it and have it still be recognizable as a flower. And I don't usually work in grays.
Uh-huh.
So I expanded it. And once again, it was just a piece of fabric that spoke to me, and we'll see what happens. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure which direction it's going to go. I even bought some beads that might work. And in my process, I don't always, like I stopped on this one, and I just sort of set it aside because I'll come back to it, and then it'll just click, and then I'll be able to do it. So I'm one of those artists that it's okay to have lots of stuff going, because I get stuck on stuff sometimes. Like on the last couple of quilts you showed, those just went through. Some things I need to pause.
All right. This one's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, that's vintage fabric on the left, and so I didn't want to cut it once again, and that one's almost finished. I think I just have to do binding. I ended up hand quilting that one, and just getting inspiration from the fabric itself, and kind of creating the flower to kind of mimic what's already on there, and hopefully balance it a little bit. So,
And that's a needle turn flower there?
yeah.
How do you do your needle turn? Do you do it with freezer paper or?
I'd use freezer paper, and then the stems, of course, I made with a bias tape maker.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to hand applique.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was so small, I decided to also hand quilt it. So,
Well, you mimicked the fabric really well on that applique. It's really perfect.
oh, thank you. And once again, those two last ones with the grays and pinks are
Mm-hmm.
not usually my palette.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of fun to go into an area that I usually don't.
Right, and now I'm bringing up the one that you call Dragonfly Water.
Yeah, Dragonfly Waters, that's an older piece that I did, got inspired by nature. It was just my take on all those electric blue dragonflies that are all
Mm-hmm.
over. That was an early piece, but I still have fondness for it.
It's a beautiful abstract.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, do you remember putting it together? What your process was?
There's such complexity. I remember I was inspired. I was at Black Pine Lake up in the Cascades, and I was camping there, and the lake there was so full of life and so complex. In the design process, I think I did some sketches, but I wanted to simplify the complexity. And I think the fabric said a lot of what I wanted to say. And so many times it's just finding the right fabric to do the work for you.
So the sketch came before the fabric then on this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just simplifying it. And then the quilting gave the dimension between the under the water and above the water kind of feel.
This one we call Jester.
Nebula.
Nebula.
Yeah, that was a playful part of me, kind of liking the whimsical, bright colors. I studied the Fool as, the archetype of the Fool, which to me meant radical freedom. So that's like even creatively how do you have radical freedom in what you create? And so that just came out one day, and I think I sketched it first also, and then tried to come as close as I could to my sketch. A lot written about the Fool. I related to the Fool. There was a time in my life that I related quite well.
I like how you did the border in the 45-degree angle in the corner.
Thank you.
It plays with the rest of the quilt beautifully. And this is adorable.
Optimus Prime. My 5-year-old grandson asked me if I would make him an Optimus Prime quilt. And I'm kind of like, oh, sure. And so I looked for patterns and I couldn't find any. So I had to make one, and it took me a while. In fact, I worked on that at a retreat and I did the whole 3 days just on this project. And then I needed to, I could tell that the quilting should be like nuts and bolts and computer lines and things like that. So I took a class on the ruler quilting. Yeah. And that I did quilt myself, and I did a lot of the nuts and bolts and design, did the kind of computer looking quilt lines, and he's happy with it.
That's most important.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's very happy with it. It's very adorable.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So it sounds like you like to go on retreats.
I do. I like the one on Camino Island. Yeah.
It's very beautiful there, and it's nice that they have a big garden that you can go out and enjoy the nature, and it's close to their quilt shop, so that if you run out of anything, they're handy.
And they set up the house so well.
Yeah. The last one we have is your winter Mandela.
Yeah, that one, a friend gave me the background fabric. So once again, I had this piece of fabric that I wanted to do something with, and then that's kind of what came out. And again, it's the freezer paper applique, and then I did some twisting of ribbon and sewed beads to hold it down. And so there's some beads in there, hand quilted. So yeah, it was the challenge of using that fat quarter of fabric, and it wasn't square enough so I had to do the things on the corners. So
it sounds like you're all over. There's no one technique that sings to you more than others. You like applique, you like piecing, you like designing your own quilts. Is that kind of how you are in your flute playing also?
Yeah, it is. Behind me is the big contrabass. Let's see if I
Wow.
can. Yeah, it's taller than I am,
Holy moly.
um, and it's 2 octaves below the regular flute, so it's in the same range as a cello.
Uh-huh.
And then next to it, this one's the bass flute, and that's 1 octave below. Then you also see the Native American flutes. Oh, and then I have the other two, the alto and the um, regular flute are down here too. And then the Native American flutes, I have the triple flute here,
Wow.
and I can do a little. So yeah, my taste in music is kind of like my taste in quilts. It's pretty eclectic. I like a lot of different things. Um, so this is what the 3 triple flute sounds like. So
Oh my gosh, that was beautiful. Thank you.
thanks. And then so there's drones on these sides, and with the doubles, there's a drone also, and they're in different keys, so that's why you need so many. So I like the wooden Native American sounding flutes as well as the metal flutes, and then I use it for different, like for more meditative kind of things. Sometimes I go to the wood sound, but also the bass flute's pretty nice too for that kind of music. And yeah, I like classical and jazz and world and folk and yeah, Celtic. And I did do music full time for about 13 years, and it was traveling a lot and weekends and lots of gigs and then I kind of I'm not playing out as much anymore. I mean, we did have to cancel. I play in different groups, but during the COVID, we've had to cancel everything, of course, and
Right.
the musicians are scrambling to figure out how. I mean, it's so different to play separate. Well, you can't play together on Zoom because of the latency. So you
Right.
have to record it and then send it to someone, and then they put it all together so it's all in the same time. And you don't get the energy of the people because you're always doing micro tuning and
Yeah. Yeah.
feeling the energy and that kind of stuff. So this has been really hard on all musicians.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, so I've been not playing out as much, but I have been um, composing music in the last probably 10 years. I did have a composing teacher, and so he helped me. I always find teachers when I need to learn more. And I've published, during the COVID, I've published 2 flute quartets and a flute choir. I have others that are still in the works, and it's a way for me probably to stay in music longer. I'm always going to have music be an important part of my life.
All right, Ann, I totally appreciate everything that you've shown us and shared with us today. And you're an inspiration to me, and I'm sure you're going to be an inspiration to whoever sees this beautiful video. So I thank you so much for your time and experience.
Oh, thank you.
Pleasure.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure.
You
And
too.
it's so good to talk with you again.
If this is your first visit, please let me know what you think. Give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll know next time I have another video. Thank you so much.